Were all carriers surprised about this? Absolutely, that was the case. And I will tell you that it was the iPhone that really was the wake-up call, right, for carriers to do that. Personal plug is that we have introduced the iPhone earlier this year, and we were well prepared for that. We look at average usage for the iPhone versus the Android, and they're very similar. But what we're seeing is we're starting to see a climb, especially with the new 4G LTE devices that's out there. All of a sudden, that usage is continuing to climb. I showed a slide earlier that talked about growth in the next few years, about increase.
I saw a quote from Tony Malone a couple weeks ago, and he said something to the effect of the wireless industry has always dramatically underestimated customer demand for bandwidth, and we have to stop doing that. I think that's true. The other point I would make is this really hasn't been driven by the carriers. Sorry, guys. You've enabled it, but it's really the iPhone is what did it. And I think there's this ecosystem of applications and developers and usage that is much broader than the network operators and what they can cook up. So I think that's really going to drive a lot of the accelerated growth now. And that was really the key that got unlocked in 07, 08.
You know, we look at the projections that are out there, and we are over-engineering, if you will, to stay ahead of that curve that we saw earlier. And just to give you some specifics on that, you know, so often we were relying on copper to a cell site. Now we have fiber. What fiber now allows us to do is to grow in unbelievable increments. Instead of it just being an additional T1, you can grow in an increment of 50 meg. You know, when you have an Ethernet backhaul to a fiber cell site, and the backhaul itself handing off to the internet, they're just astronomical numbers that are out there, and it's that combination that will allow us to stay ahead. And spectrum is also key.
To me, the measure of success is a function of customer satisfaction. So you can choke off the network, you can meter the service. That's not necessarily going to make people happy, but that'll certainly tamp down demand. I think, you know, example I like is FaceTime. I love FaceTime. I can only use it where there's Wi-Fi. First carrier that comes out and FaceTime's everywhere on their network, I suspect they'll get a lot more usage in customers, and then everybody will have to do it. So, I mean, there's, I guess the good way is become more efficient. The bad way is limit your customers, and I think that's going to be measured by how the U.S. carriers compare globally to, you know, worldwide competition. Without question, there's got to be more spectrum. You know, there's got to be unrelenting pressure on the federal government to find spectrum.
There's solutions, again, there's consumer, there's enterprise business, and I think, again, everything just has to, you probably wouldn't put a DAS in a person's home. Unless you're Steve Jobs or Bill Gates, but other than people like that, the DASs belong in the large environments, enterprise business, public venues, and then the consumers have other means that they access their applications. We all have, I think I have FiOS, as a matter of fact, but nonetheless, I don't live in Philadelphia, so I have.
Well, thank you.
But honestly, I use that at home. That is what I use for my data, because that is where I get my throughput. Fast as my 3G network can be, fast as my LTE can be, that's the data part. I still use obviously my network for voice and my data applications when I leave the home. So again, I think that seamless transition between the available spectrum can help us a lot.